let your shoulders loosen. The night is kind, and the stones of Rome are cooling under a soft sky. Lamps tremble in doorways, water sighs along hidden channels, and the city, old, patient, immense, waits for us to walk its streets. We won't shout across battlefields tonight. We'll listen to roads laid straight as intention, to laws written with careful hands, to the hush of steam in a bath where worry melts away, to the steady heart that kept an empire breathing. If your thoughts wander, let them wander. The Roman world is wide, and every road is a lullaby of footprints and dust. We'll move in chapters: myth, city, law, water, trade, faith, change. Each a calm room we enter and leave, slowly, with the courtesy of tired travelers putting down their packs. Settle and listen for the sound of sandals on stone, the light tap, the gentle scuff, the promise of arrival. The story is ready, and Rome has all the time in the world. Breathe in and let Rome begin. The air tonight is warm with old stories. Feel how the city exhales as your breath slows. How arches, baths, and quiet courtyards lean close as if remembering your name. Somewhere a door closes softly. Somewhere a fountain answers. Somewhere a scribe lifts his eyes and smiles, because even the written word needs rest. We will not hurry, no. We will walk the long streets like pilgrims of sleep, letting history become a pillow that fits the shape of your thoughts. The story begins with a river that refuses to forget, green and slow, folding around reeds and gravel, carrying two infants toward a future no one could name. The Tiber moves like time itself, gentle on the surface, certain underneath. A she-wolf, a shepherd, a fire built against the breeze, myth and memory stitched together, thread by golden thread. Romulus and Remus grow into men, and the hills around them become possibilities, boundaries, promises. A plough draws a line, pride crosses it, and grief answers. One brother falls, the other names a city, and Rome inhales for the first time, sharp, bright, alive. A she-wolf, a shepherd, a fire built against the breeze, myth and memory stitched together, thread by golden thread. Romulus and Remus grow into men, and the hills around them become possibilities, boundaries, promises. A plough draws a line, pride crosses it, and grief answers. One brother falls, the other names a city, and Rome inhales for the first time, sharp, bright, alive. Myth is a generous teacher. It does not insist on facts. It offers meanings. In the soft, uncertain light of beginning, meanings are exactly what we need. So the city wears a story like a laurel and practices its lessons. Protect the boundary, honor the oath, build a fire big enough to share. By night, the river curls around the newborn dream, and the reeds sway like a mother's hand, and somewhere an old star smiles because it has seen this all before. Around that first name, Roma, paths tangle into streets, walls rise from mud to brick, and voices begin to echo where only birds once spoke. Children chase each other along browning grass. Smoke unwinds from low roofs. A shepherd measures time by shade and the gentle nodding of his sheep. And the river, still remembering, keeps its promise. to carry, to comfort, to warn, green and patient, a ribbon binding the city to its source. The first rulers are shadows, part memory, part bronze, yet in their shade, real things appear, drains that carry rain under streets, temples that collect vows, a forum where voices learn their echoes. Neighbours teach the young city to read and measure. Etruscans bring craft, Greeks bring letters and wine, Sabines bring oaths. Rome copies, improves, repeats, until repetition becomes confidence. Then, an experiment. No single crown, but offices that balance one another, terms that end, power that breathes. The Republic steps forward, cautious and proud, determined to bind impulse with law. Two consuls share a year, like sailors sharing a tiller. The Senate debates until arguments cool enough to hold. Assemblies gather. Citizens shoulder to shoulder, hearts steadying under rules they can name. Nothing is perfect. How could it be? But something wonderful begins. The habit of taking turns, of saying enough for now, of letting paper, not passion, decide. And when the paper is not enough, there are vows, spoken carefully, broken rarely, because to swear is to invite the gods to witness your handwriting. On certain days, the city hums like a hive. On others, it holds its breath. Elections bloom, laws ripen, and the mild astonishment of self-government becomes a daily bread. Brick replaces mud, stone replaces chance, and the city's voice grows low and confident, as if speaking from deep in its chest. Rome learns to trust procedures the way a farmer trusts seasons. Sometimes harsh, sometimes late, but mostly fair. In the long, cool nave of a basilica, dust floats in light like slow snow. Contracts murmur under breath, witnesses nod. A scribe dries ink with sand and blows, careful as a jeweler, precise as a mason. Outside, the forum is a tide. In the morning, a trickle of sandals. By noon, a warm current of robes and voices. Petitions are read, prices posted. Promises made with open hands. Then sealed with wax that remembers. Law becomes the city's second skeleton. Quiet, rigid, fair when it can be, firm when it must be, and at dusk, when lamps bloom like little moons, even justice seems gentle. Look, there's a clerk sanding the wet edge of an oath. There a magistrate weighing 2 stories as if they were coins. Here a grandmother tracing a name with her finger, learning the shape of dignity. On walls, chalk letters rise and vanish with the rain. On benches, neighbours argue, forgive, and purchase figs to carry home. The forum teaches patience. Your case will come. Your voice will matter. You are part of a city that remembers what it writes. When night leans in, the basilica breathes out the day. Echoes thin, footsteps mellow. A final stamp kisses a seal, and the lamp smoke curls like a sleepy thought. Rome rolls up the legal day like a scroll and ties it neatly. Tomorrow another will open, crisp, smelling faintly of dust and hope. And somewhere a scribe washes his inkwell, smiling because the world, for one more day, allowed itself to be arranged, Insulae lean into narrow streets like neighbours eager to whisper. Laundry lifts and falls in the evening breeze. Cooking smoke curls from small braziers. Somewhere, a stringed instrument plucks the patience out of time. A shop door opens, olive oil, warm bread, a bronze scale that kisses its weights. A child counts slowly, carefully, and when the numbers add up, the pride is a little crown on a small brow. At supper, the household shrine glows. Figurines watch figs split, cheese shared, thanks offered. On rooftops, friends trade stories under a sky so close you could salt it. In courtyards, a well rope creaks, water laughs in a clay jar, and someone, always someone, pauses to look up, to breathe, to measure the day by the colour of the sky. Neighbours pass bowls through doorways, lending spice, borrowing time, mending loneliness with ordinary kindness. What a beautiful craft. Even dogs learn the city's rhythm. 3 barks for strangers, 1 for friends, none at all for the moon. When the last plates are stacked and the last story told, night presses its cool palm to the city's forehead, and every street sighs. Footsteps remember themselves home. The wind pages through laundry, and on a windowsill, an oil lamp finishes its last breath and becomes a small curl of smoke. Sleep comes easily to a city that worked honestly and spoke kindly. May it come easily to you too. A surveyor lifts a gromer and sights a line so steady it feels like a prayer. Stakes, cord, measure, again and again, until the land agrees to be straight. This is Rome at its clearest, intention pressed into earth. Foundations go down, stone, gravel, fitted blocks that drink the rain and give it back slowly. The Appian Way leaves the city like a sentence that knows its verb, confident, concise, unstoppable. Milestones tick like a calm heartbeat. Relay stations breathe. Fresh mules, a cup of water, a quick exchange of letters folded into hope. Distance shrinks. Tomorrow moves closer. The world feels knit. Roads are mercy made of stone. Mercy for merchants who must arrive. For messengers who must be believed. For families who wish to be less far apart. Listen. Iron on wheel, sandal on edge. Rain finding the ditch and not your ankles. That sound, order, relieves the body like sleep. And at certain milestones, names are carved not to boast, but to promise. We were here. We cared for this. We will return. By moonlight, the road is a ribbon of silver, edged with the black lace of cypress. Even the night respects its direction. Couriers ride like quiet arrows. Caravans drift like patient constellations. Lovers count distance by letters that arrive whole and still warm from a friend's hands. A straight line across a stubborn world. How can you not sleep better knowing such a thing exists? One name gathers many loyalties, and the old balances creak. Julius writes as he advances, ink a march step matching tempo, turning events into sentences, sentences into momentum. A winter river is crossed, dice become proverb, friendships harden into futures. The city inhales, sharp, and wonders whether law can still contain desire when desire has learned to speak like a saviour. Old Para. A life ends quickly, A movement does not. The forum echoes, the Senate hall cools, and a great question lingers in the cold air. Can many hands steer, or must one voice call the pace? When morning finds the city, the streets are the same, the bread is warm, the water is sweet, yet you taste the difference in the air. Power has learned a new accent. The law will have to answer in kind or fall silent. Ordinary people will continue because they must. And somewhere in a tent on a wet field, a commander pauses, listening to rain on canvas, and knows that even victories must sleep. Octavian becomes Augustus by lowering his voice until the whole empire leans in to listen. Not thunder, not spectacle, weather, steady and persuasive, turning brick into marble, hurry into poise. Peace is work, taxes tuned like strings, roads mended, grain fleets married to the sea's seasons, corruption nudged into light where shame, not swords, does some of the healing. The city promises to last, and then, patiently, keeps the promise. Poets find their music, jurists their Latin, provinces their rhythm. Rome breathes evenly for a long, miraculous moment, and the air tastes like olives, parchment, and warm stone. He tidies the Republic's frayed hem into rituals, oaths renewed, offices respected, ceremonies smoothed until they shine. The stage is the same, but the lighting gentles. Even ambition speaks in a lower register. He scales generosity, grain doles to steady hungry months, aqueduct funds to sweeten drink, quiet pardons where mercy would purchase more peace than punishment. Authority, suddenly, feels like competence. On the Arapaces, figures process with calm faces, children tugging at hems, elders attentive, laurel and life braided together. Peace is no longer a pause. It is a policy made of weeks and lists. In homes, calendars learn softer holidays, games without cruelty, spectacles trimmed to pageantry and awe. The city decides that beauty itself can be a civic duty. Moral laws try to shepherd private habits toward public virtue. Not all obey, of course. Yet the argument matters. It says, what you do at your table belongs to the city's weather. He hides monarchy in republican clothing, careful titles, careful humility, careful distance from the word king. And most people, worn thin by storms, are glad to rest beneath consistent shade. Old offices warm in his hands, censors, praetors, treasurers, each set to rhythm like instruments in a patient orchestra. Mistakes happen, the music keeps time. Messages ride the cursus publicus, state horses eating distance. Milestones read like a pulse under the empire's skin. Far provinces feel, perhaps for the first time, less far. And so, for a long breath, the world within the limes learns to walk without stumbling. When he dies, the project does not, because habits, once taught well, remember themselves. Across valleys, water walks, step by graceful step, on arches that look like sentences a poet carved in the air. Gravity is the craftsman. Roman hands are the apprentices who learned its habits. Channels murmur into cisterns. Fountains pulse in squares where shade is precious. A thirsty city drinks without hurry. And then, the baths, the warm lungs of Rome, exhaling steam and small forgiveness. Oil, strigil, warm pool, cool plunge. Dust loosens, anger loosens, time loosens. A senator and a potter share the same cloud of vapor, and for an hour they are only bodies and breath. A good aqueduct falls only a handful of fingers across a mile. So slight the eye doubts it, so certain the water never does. That is Roman genius, patience that looks like magic. Arcades stitch hillsides together. Maintenance crews walk the line like shepherds of a metallic river, clearing reeds, coaxing lime from stone mouths. The city drinks because someone woke before dawn. At public fountains, copper cups ring faintly. Children jostle kindly, and gossip travels at the speed of a slow smile. Water is infrastructure. Water is community. Enter the baths, and the world loosens its collar. Apoditerium, clothes folded, sandals paired. Tepidarium, warmth like a welcome. Caldarium, fog and laughter softly braided. A masseur's hands press oil into shoulders that held too much. A friend traces a story in steam. Someone sighs so deeply the room seems to answer. Out you go, cooler, lighter, cleaner than a new sentence. Outside the door, work waits, but it waits more gently when you return, shiny, with warmth. Engineers know the city by flows, water, waste, grain, people, each guided by slope, schedule, and simple rules. Order is mercy, the pipes sing it all day. In summer, shade maps the courtyards hour by hour. In winter, hippocaust fires stoke kindness into floors. Comfort is designed, imagine that, and it makes citizens kinder to one another. When the moon climbs, the aqueduct becomes a silver sentence across the black. The city reads it in silence and sleeps better for the literacy. Tin from misty islands, grain from a river that blooms with silt, glass born of coastal fire. Goods move like weather, and ports glow like constellations at night. Somewhere a ledger fattens. Somewhere a price learns to listen to distance. Cities wear Rome's pattern, but keep their colours. Limestone squares under North African sun, timbered courtyards in Gaul, a forum that smells faintly of salt, dates, and promises. Latin and local tongues braid into a friendly rope. Citizenship stretches like a good cloak, warming, weighty, protective. With it come duties, rights, and the quiet certainty that there is something larger than any one man, a law that outlives him. Ostia hums with ropes and gulls. Alexandria writes numbers in wind-blown ledgers. Antioch tastes of cinnamon and news. Ships learn the moods of coasts like dear relatives. Provincial elites send their children to study rhetoric and return them fluent in both Latin and the weather at home. This is how loyalty grows, by understanding, not only by command. Coins pass, faces change, values hold, until they do not. Then the market invents small solutions, while the state composes larger ones. Between them, life continues. Governors arrive with staffs and intentions. The best learn to listen first. Local councils argue themselves into improvements. Roman engineers arrive with chalk and a level. A temple here, a theatre there. Baths almost everywhere. The civic kit unfolds like a traveling show that teaches people how to be comfortable together. And under it all, the law, tablets and seals, deeds and wills, rules that fit different accents without losing their shape. Caravans cross the spine of deserts. River barges move like slow punctuation. Road crews in far hills set stones with the same sure touch as the capital's best. Letters fly, one to a mother saying, "I bought a workshop," one to a friend, "Send more glass," one to a magistrate, "This bridge needs love." The empire is a conversation. At night, even far from Rome, a milestone shines a little with dew, and a traveller feels less alone. Altars breathe incense to many names. Household shrines glow like small hearths of gratitude. Festivals spin through the year, colour, music, bread broken in streets. And then the city returns to work, steadier for the joy. In a modest room, a stoic lowers his lamp and practices a craft, accepting what arrives, refusing what corrodes, keeping a soul tidy in a world that adores clutter. Wisdom doesn't shout, it tidies, it clarifies, it restarts. In courtyards and rooms full of ordinary light, a new faith gathers, quietly at first, then with a confidence that begins in mercy and grows into community. Calendars will change, so will hearts. Saturnalia tumbles through winter like a well-meant joke. Roles loosen, gifts pass, laughter warms the chill. Joy is not an indulgence, it's maintenance. Philosophy, meanwhile, files the edge of grief to a curve you can hold. A teacher says, "You control your choices," and a student, astonished, sleeps better that night. Sacred processions wind between shutters. Even those who watch from windows feel included, as if faith were a blanket with an excellent hem. In small rooms, prayers no longer address the city's many, but the world's one. Bread is shared, songs are whispered, mercy practiced like a language lesson. The shift happens slowly, then all at once, then slowly again. Customs braid with new convictions until the rope holds more weight than before. Wherever people gather to speak softly about meaning, Rome leans in. It loves order and it loves hope, and both are present here. On a desk, a philosopher's scroll rests beside a legal code. On a shelf, a lamp beside a loaf. On a street, a beggar beside a senator. All of them belong to the same weather. Kindness becomes policy. Forgiveness, practice, restraint, praise. These are not grand gestures, they are sturdy ones. And when the lamp is pinched dark, even ideas sleep, ready to wake clearer at dawn. A century comes that breathes too fast. Frontiers probing, coinage thinning, offices cracking along their seams. The air feels brittle, yet workshops keep turning, grain keeps moving. Life refuses to be dramatic about its own persistence. Reforms arrive like careful stitches, prices steadied, posts reassigned, borders watched with skill more than noise. A fort at dawn looks the same as ever. Neat ditches, straight streets, smoke rising in patient threads. Survival is a craft, and Rome, tired, clever, stubborn, practices it with long, even strokes. Not triumph, not collapse, continuation. Walls bloom around cities like new ribs. Storehouses learn better locks. Soldiers learn better maps. Fear is managed the way weather is, by preparation. A statesman writes an edict that tries to tell prices how to behave. Merchants smile, adjust, continue. Reality is negotiated, and everyone lives with the compromise. Command splits into teams, into tetrarchies, into arrangements that share the strain. The machine refuses to be only one thing. Somewhere a bridge is rebuilt with better footings. Somewhere a road is raised out of flood's reach. Somewhere a village becomes a town because the map finally honored it. Somewhere a bridge is rebuilt with better footings. Somewhere a road is raised out of flood's reach. Somewhere a village becomes a town because the map finally honored it. People marry, plant, mend sandals. They tell stories about before and choose anyway to love after. This is the quiet heroism of ordinary days. An emperor with tired eyes stands on a balcony and watches dawn find the rooftops. He knows he is not Rome. He is only its steward for a while. He turns, signs 3 papers, cancels a 4th, and sends for someone who knows how the aqueduct is doing. Leadership, at scale, is a sequence of small, faithful questions. By noon, the city hums in a slightly better key. Between 2 seas, a capital rises like a blade catching morning. Walls white as gulls, harbours bright with promise. Trade lines converge, ideas collect. Administration learns a new rhythm without forgetting the old beat. Symbols share the same stone. Eagles, crosses, laurel. The calendar learns new feasts. Offices learn new signatures. Law keeps its straight spine and simply leans toward a different light. New churches rise with borrowed basilica bones, long halls, clear stories, light that behaves like kindness. Mosaics learn to hold gold like water holds moon. The court wears a different shade of ceremony, the city a different balance of trade. Yet the roads still report to law as rivers report to the sea. 2 centres, 1 grammar. Letters address themselves correctly and arrive where they meant to go. In the west, lamps still burn, fewer, farther apart, but faithful. Farmers know which fields remember Rome. They plant accordingly. In the east, patience thickens into policy. The habit of order learns to sing with new vowels and makes a long, long music. Messengers cross between worlds like bees, trading pollen of news and law. Some argue over doctrine, some over taxes, some over whose wall needs repair first. All of it is a kind of belonging. People fight hardest for what they still think is theirs. An old senator, now mostly memory and courtesy, smiles when addressed by his title. Names survive beyond the offices that minted them. Dust floats in new sunlight the way it floated in the old. Time, it seems, honours continuity. In the west, the end comes like late autumn. Harvest smaller, days shorter, duties stubbornly the same. Baths steam for fewer hours. A market loses a stall. A road needs repair and receives only patience. People leave, people remain. New hands light old lamps. Old songs borrow new harmonies. The city loosens rather than shatters. What a gentle kind of ending. What lasts is not a statue, but a habit. Straight roads, precise contracts. Cities planned to be kind. Rain still turns an old stone road into a ribbon of silver, and some part of you, seeing it, stands a little straighter. Villas become villages, villas become monasteries. Prayers replace account books on certain desks. Work does not stop. It simply changes uniforms. Town walls welcome new neighbors. Markets learn new currencies. Recipes keep the same herbs. Bless the same hunger. A teacher, stubborn and sweet, drills a child in letters that once ruled the world and still rule the shape of sense. Wealth hides in wool and land instead of ledgers. Safety hides in kin instead of laws. Not worse, perhaps, only different weather. Messengers carry fewer imperial edicts and more local treaties. Seals are humbler, but they still click shut with that satisfying certainty. And when the harvest is good, laughter sounds exactly as it did under Caesar. On a winter night, a family eats by the hearth. Outside, the old road sleeps under frost. If you listen, you can hear hooves from long ago, a memory passing through stone. The lamp burns low, the youngest nods off. A story stops mid-sentence and does not need finishing. Everyone knows the end. The world has changed costumes. The stage remains. Markets open before the sun, and Rome wakes hungry. Bread ovens breathing, olive oil gleaming like liquid dusk. We start in the Macella, markets, where staples meet spice, and the empire becomes a meal you can hold. Daily calories for most Romans come from grain. Wheat in the city, more barley on the margins, baked into flat loaves or rustic rounds. Annona, the grain supply, is policy, not charity. State-managed imports, especially from Egypt after 30 BCE, stabilize prices and prevent unrest. Olive oil is both food and infrastructure. Cooking, lamp fuel, even skincare in the baths. Amphorae stamped with tituli picti tell you origins and quality. Trade routes read like recipes. In poorer homes, kitchens are small or shared. Many buy cooked fare from Thermopolia, street counters with embedded dolia, jars of stews and grains kept warm for a coin or two. A middle-class domus kitchen shows clay braziers, iron grates, mortars and pestles for herb pastes. Smoke stains the rafters because chimneys are rare. Pots are bronze or coarseware. Knives are precious and sharpened often. Wealth changes flavour. Garum, fish sauce, perfumes, dishes, pepper travels from India, dates and figs sweeten sauces. A chef might bind oil with wine, must for a glossy glaze. Markets open before the sun, and Rome wakes hungry. Bread ovens breathing, olive oil gleaming like liquid dusk. We start in the Macella, markets, where staples meet spice, and the empire becomes a meal you can hold. Daily calories for most Romans come from grain. Wheat in the city, more barley on the margins, baked into flat loaves or rustic rounds. Annona, the grain supply, is policy, not charity. State-managed imports, especially from Egypt after 30 BCE, stabilize prices and prevent unrest. Olive oil is both food and infrastructure. Cooking, lamp fuel, even skincare in the baths. Amphorae stamped with tituli picti tell you origins and quality. Trade routes read like recipes. In poorer homes, kitchens are small or shared. Many buy cooked fare from Thermopolia. Street counters with embedded dolia, jars of stews and grains kept warm for a coin or two. A middle-class domus kitchen shows clay braziers, iron grates, mortars and pestles for herb pastes. Smoke stains the rafters because chimneys are rare. Pots are bronze or coarseware. Knives are precious and sharpened often. Wealth changes flavour. Garum, fish sauce, perfumes, dishes, dates and figs sweeten sauces. A chef might bind oil with wine, must for a glossy glaze. Bread isn't just food, it's politics. Bread weights and prices are monitored. Corrupt bakers face penalties because fairness at the oven door is civic peace. Wine is universal, but usually diluted. Posca, vinegar water, refreshes soldiers and labourers. The diet is Mediterranean by necessity and wisdom. Grains, legumes, greens, oil, fruit, with meat as a festival or status accent. Behind variety lies logistics. River barges, coastal cabotage and road carts feed the city. Every hot loaf on a counter is a little triumph of supply chains. Cookbooks like the compiled Apicius, later form, show elite taste for layered flavours, sweet with savoury, herbs with honey. Yet even these recipes kneel to staples: oil, grain, salt. Religious calendars season the table, festival meats, fast days, offerings at household shrines, food marks belonging. Who you share bread with is who you are. At night, kitchens cool, embers hide under ash for morning. The city sleeps, and somewhere a baker already measures flour. Because Rome expects breakfast. A wax tablet, a stylus, and patience. That's where Roman literacy begins. In a ludus, primary school, children trace letters in wax, rehearse syllables aloud, and learn numbers with counters on a board. Education is tiered. First, the literator, basic reading, writing, arithmetic. Then the grammaticus, grammar, literature, especially Greek and Latin poetry. And for some, the rhetor, public speaking, law, persuasion. Not everyone attends each stage. Class, gender, and geography shape the ladder. Yet letters leak outward. Shopkeepers read weights, soldiers decode orders, freed people keep accounts. Why rhetoric? Because in courts and councils, words win. Training drills status, inventio, dispositio, elocutio, memoria, pronunciatio. Finding arguments, arranging them, adorning them, remembering them, delivering them. Libraries, public and private, arrive with empire-scale prosperity. Scrolls rest in pigeonhole shelves. Librarians copy, repair, and catalogue. Readers murmur through Ennius, Cicero, Virgil, Livy. Letters move by road and sea. The cursus publicus carries state dispatches. Private letters hitch rides with merchants or friends. Wax tablets fold shut with cord and seal. Writing tools matter. Reed pens and ink on papyrus for longer texts. Stylus on wax for drafts, sums and notes. Ostraca, potsherds, for throwaway lists. Evidence of daily literacy scattered like crumbs. Girls, many learn at home. Elite women compose and correspond. Inscriptions preserve names of docti, learned women. Enslaved tutors, Greek and otherwise, train future citizens, a tense truth of Roman education. Examinations are performances, recitations in small rooms, declamations on set themes, tyrant versus son, shipwreck and law. The goal is poise under eyes and questions. Literacy maps power, but also leaks kindness. A letter home from a soldier asks about the harvest and the dog. A shop sign promises fair weights. A tomb verse holds love in measured Latin. Schools end at dusk. The wax cools in its wooden frame. A stylus nick is sanded smooth. Tomorrow the same lines will be traced, and suddenly, one day, they will be understood. In the city's hush, a scribe caps his ink and smiles. The day's words will travel farther than he ever will. Rome shines because hands remembered what to do. In workshops off the street, officinae, craft meets routine. Potters, smiths, carpenters, mosaicists, glass blowers, leather workers, all stitching usefulness to beauty. Pottery is the empire's container language. Terra sigillata, fine red ware, carries status to tables from Gaul to Syria. Courseware carries stews and storage. Kiln sites are mapped by shards like breadcrumbs across centuries. Metalwork splits into iron's strength and bronze's grace. Iron nails, hinges, tools. Bronze lamps, fittings, statues. Smithies ring like small clocks all day. Mosaics floor houses with stories, geometric fields, fish that look wet, theatrical masks with fixed smiles. A team sorts tesserae by colour and size. A foreman sets curves with a practiced thumb. Construction is choreography. Surveyor's mark, quarryman cut, oxen haul, teams set, opus caementitium, Roman concrete, into wooden forms, masons skin it with ashlar or brick. Vaults lift space into shade, domes teach light to behave. Glass arrives molten, learns breath on a blowpipe, and becomes cups, flasks, windows. A workshop gleams with small suns cooling on a shelf. Leatherworkers shape sandals, caligae for soldiers, finer calci for citizens. Carpenters tame beams into roofs and furniture. Dyers gossip with vats the colour of arguments. Guilds, not modern unions, but collegia. Associations that bury the dead, honour deities, share feasts, and sometimes leverage influence. Community knits through shared craft. Quality travels with names. Stamps on tiles, signatures on mosaics. Styles recognised across provinces. You could hire a look. A city resounds like a tool drawer. Tap of bronze on stone, rasp of saw on pine, bellows sigh, wheel hum. That music is prosperity's heartbeat. At day's end, sweated shirts hang. Hands are scrubbed with sand and oil, tools wiped and put in their small wooden beds. The workshop closes like a book with its place kept. Night keeps what the day made. Morning will ask for more. Morning sun finds the curve of a theatre's caviar, warm on stone benches that remember jokes better than wars. A curtain, dropped, not raised, will spill a painted street into view, and the city will pretend together for a while. Roman theatre grows from Greek bones, but learns its own gait. Permanent stone theatres in the late Republic. Masked actors, stock characters. Music from the tibiae that flutes the air like a soft request to relax. Comedy, mime, pantomime, each with rules the crowd can keep in its pocket. The audience is a city in miniature. Senators up front, citizens behind. Women and freed people threaded through by custom and region. Theatre is shared literacy, gesture, rhythm, punchline. Morning sun finds the curve of a theatre's caviar, warm on stone benches that remember jokes better than wars. A curtain, dropped, not raised, will spill a painted street into view, and the city will pretend together for a while. Roman theatre grows from Greek bones, but learns its own gait. Permanent stone theatres in the late Republic. Masked actors, stock characters. Music from the tibiae that flutes the air like a soft request to relax. Comedy, mime, pantomime, each with rules the crowd can keep in its pocket. The audience is a city in miniature. Senators up front, citizens behind. Women and freed people threaded through by custom and region. Theatre is shared literacy, gesture, rhythm, punchline. Pantomime in the imperial age. One dancer, masked, telling myth with a body that seems to know grammar. An orchestra underscores with drum and flute. A chorus explains what the hands already said. It's elegant, mesmerizing, almost drowsy in long waves. Theatre buildings are feats of engineering. Vomitoria for fast exit. Awnings, vela, to temper sun, acoustics shaped to cradle a whisper. Architecture here is kindness. Everyone gets a line of sight and a line of sound. Playwrights, Plautus, Terence, serve the Republic. Seneca's tragedies haunt shelves more than stages. Later, local scenes and travelling troops keep the habit alive. Even when new devotions frown. Pantomime in the imperial age. One dancer, masked, telling myth with a body that seems to know grammar. An orchestra underscores with drum and flute. A chorus explains what the hands already said. It's elegant, mesmerizing, almost drowsy in long waves. Theatre buildings are feats of engineering. Vomitoria for fast exit. Awnings, vela, to temper sun. Acoustics shaped to cradle a whisper. Architecture here is kindness. Everyone gets a line of sight and a line of sound. Playwrights, Plautus, Terence, serve the Republic. Seneca's tragedies haunt shelves more than stages. Later, local scenes and travelling troops keep the habit alive, even when new devotions frown. The amphitheatrum is different. An oval built to hold, looking itself. The Colosseum coordinates thousands. Tickets inked with gate and seat, crowd management by corridor and stair. The urban science of moving bodies safely. Gladiators, most enslaved or condemned, a few volunteers. Train in ludi with strict diets, medical care, and contracts. The arena is labour and theatre at once. Not every match is to the death. That's rarer than rumour, because trainers, owners, and audiences value skill. Beast shows, venation, and staged hunts add spectacle. Mechanisms lift scenery and cages from understage passages. The machinery of wonder hums beneath sand. Chariot racing at the circus is the Empire's loud heartbeat. Factions blue, green, red, white. Teams funded like businesses. Drivers with celebrity carved into dice and lamps. The Spina, central barrier, bristles with obelisks and lap counters. 7 turns decide fortunes. Betting is ordinary. Riots are not unheard of. But most days are rhythm. Hooves thunder. Wheels skim disaster. The crowd surges and settles like the sea. Between races, vendors weave with wine and figs. Shade lines move across faces. Old friends argue about tactics like philosophers of velocity. By late antiquity, tastes shift. Bishops preach restraint. Spectacles soften or relocate to safer, smaller forms. Yet the architecture lingers, repurposed. Rings become markets. Theatres become quarries of memory. The civic lesson stays. To gather, to sit, to watch together under rules. This is how cities practice being cities. Applause is democracy in brief. When the seats cool at dusk, echoes fold themselves away like costumes. The city, a little tired, smiles. Good show. Rome is a forest of rooms. Insulae rise in wood and brick. Rental blocks with shops below, dwellings above. Fire and collapse risks lead to height limits and later regulations. Space is precious. Light wells and narrow lanes negotiate with the sky. A typical insular apartment is small. A main room, maybe a cupboard of a kitchen, a window to the street. Families share walls with work and neighbours. Privacy is thinner, but belonging thicker. Rich households live in the domus. Rooms folded around a central atrium. Rain gathered by the impluvium. Past it, a tablinum for business. Then a colonnaded peristyle garden. Fountains, frescoes. A piece of weather domesticated. Frescoes turn walls into memory. Second-style illusions of columns and vistas. Later intricate panels and myth scenes that frame dinner talk. Floors in opus tessellatum and sectile shine under lamps. Geometry teaching the eye to breathe. Building tech evolves. Opus cementitium, concrete, unlocks vaults and domes. Brick-faced concrete, opus latericium, travels well across provinces. Stone is facade and sermon. Engineers, not just artists, shape beauty. Urban planning grows bones. Insular grid blocks. Cardo and decumanus axes in colonial towns. Forums placed like hearts. Baths like lungs. Theatres like smiles at one edge of the plan. Fire is the city's ancient fear. After great fires, codes harden. Party walls, limits on timber, fines for careless ovens. The vigiles, a night watch and fire brigade, patrol with buckets, hooks, pumps, and a dog's nose for smoke. Insular landlords balance profit with penalty. Tenants trade height for cost, cheap rooms near the sky, dear rooms near the street. Ground floors love business. Upper floors love breezes. Noise is architecture's second enemy. Markets, carts, vendors, plenty of complaint literature survives. Thick walls and back rooms are ancient soundproofing. At night, thresholds glow like small stages. Courtyards gather family weather. Fountains talk quietly to insomniacs. Stone, having worked all day, cools with excellent manners. You could navigate Rome by scent. Wet travertine after a fountain splash. Fig trees in a peristyle. Bread up one alley, leather down another. Walls collect this into comfort. And when it rains, roofs keep the promise they were built to keep. That too is architecture. Health in Rome is a triangle of habit, environment, and learned craft. Baths keep skin and spirits clear. Diet and sleep do their slow, faithful work. And when trouble comes, healers arrive with kits and opinions. Physicians vary, from household doctors to iatroliptai, massage, oil practitioners. From Greek-trained elites to empirical hands who learned by doing. Galen stands out later, mixing observation, animal dissection, and system. The medical model blends theory, humours, blood, phlegm, black bile, yellow bile, with practice, setting bones, stitching wounds, poultices, dietetics. It's imperfect, yet often effective, especially where cleanliness and rest are prescribed. Public health is infrastructure. Sewers keep streets honest, aqueducts offer clean water, latrines, surprisingly social, move waste downstream. Cloaca Maxima is civic pride, not just a drain. Military medicine is robust. Valetudinaria, field hospitals, in forts, triage of wounds, standardized kits, surgeons practiced by necessity. Survival rates for treated fractures and cuts are respectable for the era. Midwifery and women's health rely on experienced matrons, herbal knowledge, practical wisdom. Childbirth is risk, community is response. Pharmacopoeia is a garden. Willow for pain, poppy for sleep, garlic for strength, honey as antiseptic dressing, wine as solvent and courage. Recipes live in manuals and mouths. Plagues come, the Antonine, the Cyprian, testing systems, theology, and kindness. Burial societies and collegia step forward. Emperors fund relief. Streets learn quiet. In daily life, prevention is a schedule. Bathe, eat simply, walk, sleep, avoid damp drafts, honor moderation. Much of health is manners toward your own body. Mental steadiness finds help in philosophy. Stoic exercises, premeditation of adversity, control what you can, a cognitive hygiene avant la lettre. Shrines and prayers soothe the unmeasurable. Household remedies share space with professional care. Sometimes the former works best because attention itself is medicine. A poultice and a story, a bowl of hot soup and companionship. When the lamp is lowered, convalescents listen to fountains and let bone and blood rehearse their quiet choreography. Coins clink like punctuation in Rome's long sentence. Denarius, Sestertius, Aureus, faces of emperors aging across metal. Reverses telling policy in little messages. Grain, victory, peace, roads. Money is not just trade, it's propaganda and trust. Debasement during crises reads like a diary of anxiety. Reforms, think Augustus, Diocletian, try to fix the grammar of value with new standards. Taxation funds the machine. Land taxes, poll taxes, customs dues, estate levies. In cities, vectigalia, public revenues, farm to contractors. In provinces, governors balance extraction with stability. Payment is mixed. Cash, kind, labour. Grain shipments from Egypt are taxes with sales. Roadwork can be civic duty. Military pay, stipendium. Ties loyalty to schedules. Accountancy is a Roman virtue. Households and estates keep ledgers. Rations reconcile monthly. Seals close bundles that auditors will open with polite suspicion. Arithmetic is governance. Prices drift with distance and season. Merchants hedge with storage and contracts. Edicts that fix prices show state anxiety and market creativity. Reality arrives somewhere between. Banks and moneylenders lubricate transactions. Credit and sureties let risk travel farther than muscle could. Interest rates vary by trust and time. Mortgages exist. Contracts are law-wearing math. Military finance is enormous. Provisioning, pay, bonuses at accession. The army is both sword and payroll. A mutiny is a missed stipend plus bad weather. In late antiquity, taxes lean more on land and obligations. Coin flow thins. The economy relearns local habits. The machine simplifies to survive. Banks and moneylenders lubricate transactions. Credit and sureties let risk travel farther than muscle could. Interest rates vary by trust and time. Mortgages exist. Contracts are law-wearing math. Military finance is enormous. Provisioning, pay, bonuses at accession. The army is both sword and payroll. A mutiny is a missed stipend plus bad weather. In late antiquity, taxes lean more on land and obligations. Coin flow thins. The economy relearns local habits. The machine simplifies to survive. All along, ordinary people navigate. A shopkeeper balancing fairness and margin. A mason saving for a dowry. A widow arguing for leniency. Money is biography, written in copper and decisions. When a coin passes hand to hand by lamplight, it carries fingerprints of trust. The empire breathes out in taxes and in with salaries, like tides. And a child, counting sestertii by whisper, discovers the empire in the small gravity of number. A Roman household, familiar, is law and love braided. Marriages arranged for alliance and affection. Dowries recorded in careful contracts. Children brought under a father's patria potestas that law will steadily soften across centuries. Women's legal position varies by status and time. Under manus marriage, she passes into her husband's legal hand. Under sine manu, more common later, she remains under her father or guardian, keeping property rights more independently. Property, guardianship, and inheritance law give women leverage. They can own, bequeath, bring lawsuits through representatives. Widows often manage estates with smooth competence. The law's letters are strict. Daily life writes between the lines. Names preserved in inscriptions show businesswomen, innkeepers, cloth dealers, bankers, especially in ports and markets. Freedom to act depends on class, family, and the watchfulness of neighbours. Motherhood is both joy and risk. Midwives and older women steer births with skill. Burial inscriptions grieve young mothers and small children, a tenderness that refuses time. Religion offers roles of dignity. Vestal virgins wield sacral power and social privilege. Priestesses of local cults manage festivals and funds. Piety is also administration. Education for girls ranges from home instruction to advanced literacy in elite circles. Letters from women survive. Affectionate, shrewd, practical. Love poetry speaks to and from women. The domestic sphere is not silent. Marriage customs mix affection and strategy. Weddings include joining of hands, dextrarum junctio, shared fire, and a new threshold. Divorce, while common among elites, is legal and often administrative. A dissolution of contract and household, complex but possible. Manumission stories fold into family life. Freed women become clients and sometimes kin. Households expand by law as much as by birth. Across centuries, emperors and jurists nudge policy, encouraging marriage and childbirth, limiting guardianship burdens, protecting dowries, defining adultery and its penalties. The legal net is busy. Reality swims with surprising grace. What remains stable is daily management. Women balancing ledgers, supervising kitchens, commissioning repairs, tutoring children, praying at dawn. Power is often proximate, not public. At night, a mother tells a story. A widow signs a contract. A daughter copies lines by lamplight. The city is held together by these small, steady acts. Slavery is a scaffold Rome stands on, common, varied, everywhere, woven through homes, workshops, farms, ships, even offices. It is an economy of compelled labour and complicated intimacy, harsh in law but elastic in daily practice. People enter slavery by war, birth, exposure, debt in earlier eras, piracy on the margins. They are bought and sold in markets that smell of leather, oil, and chalk names. Roles range from field hands and miners to secretaries, tutors, accountants. Labour mapped to talent as much as to muscle. The law calls enslaved people res property, but allows contracts and trusts managed through them. Cruelty exists and is recorded, but so do incentives, wages, peculium, and paths toward freedom that the system, paradoxically, relies on to function. Households are intimate theatres of dependence. A child learns letters from an enslaved tutor. A mistress entrusts the household keys to a dispensator. A master dictates to a secretary who preserves his style better than he does himself. On estates, gang labour harvests olives and grapes. In quarries and mines, the work is brutal and short. In cities, skilled enslaved artisans run shops that keep a cut for themselves and a cut for the household ledger. The peculium, a personal fund permitted by the owner, turns time into hope. Saved wages, tips, gifts, careful arithmetic. Manumission can be bought, arranged in wills, or awarded for service. Freedom is a staircase with narrow, negotiable steps. Freed people, liberty, liberté, change Rome's sound. They keep ties to former owners as patron and client, take Roman names, start businesses, marry, raise citizen children. Inscriptions shout gratitude and pride. He made himself from nothing, a very Roman compliment. The law sets limits, certain offices closed to freedmen, but money and competence buy dignity daily. In ports and markets, freed people manage warehouses, run shipping firms, fund guilds, endow altars, and sit on local councils. Manumission is policy as well as mercy. It motivates diligence, knits loyalty, and replenishes the citizen body with families who take Roman habits seriously. Not all stories lift. Runaways are hunted, revolts are crushed. The law favours owners in disputes. Satire preserves the voice of resentment. Philosophy argues for humanity, but rarely for abolition. The empire changes costumes more easily than it changes fundamentals. Yet within hard letters, people find seams, contracts that promise freedom at birth of a child, wills that emancipate a household, patrons who honour skill and loyalty over status. At dusk, a woman counts her peculium by lamplight and whispers a date to herself. Next spring, maybe summer. Hope makes a quiet arithmetic on wax. A legion is a moving blueprint, organised tents, measured streets, schedules struck like coin. Wherever it rests, a castra appears. Ditch, rampart, gate alignment. A grid that says, we intend to stay long enough to be tidy. Behind the shine of armour stands supply. Grain rations, mules, carts, forage, winter cloaks, nails, vinegar, salt. Logistics makes strategy possible. A road without grain is a story without verbs. Paydays, stipendium, keep loyalty. Bonuses on accession sweeten allegiance. Discharge diplomas, grant land or citizenship. paper that turns service into future. Marching order is choreography. Engineers and surveyors first, then baggage, then cohorts with intervals, scouts ahead, rear guard behind. At day's end, the camp builds itself again. Stakes in, ditch cut, tents up, cook fires blooming. Standard kits are small toolboxes. Dolabra, entrenching tool. Saw, stakes. An army that digs is an army that sleeps. Discipline is comfort disguised as duty. Animal power pulses through the system. Mules, horses, oxen. Requisition and contracts. Fodder maps as detailed as battle maps. Winter quarters stockpile like squirrels. Signals coordinate distance. Horns, flags, runners. Orders transcribed and recopied to avoid the telephone game of memory. When it works, complexity feels like simplicity, which is the highest compliment. Medical logistics matter. Field dressings, surgeons, evacuation to valetudinaria, hot water and discipline. An army that can heal returns value on training. Veterans are investments. When peace holds, forts become towns. Canabae outside gates. Traders, families, altars to local gods who learned the legionary Latin for protect us. The frontier is less a wall than a zipper. Trade across, patrol along, diplomacy through. Logistics smooths frictions by making predictability the local weather. Paper binds as tightly as iron. Receipts for grain, tallies for nails, returns for boots. Officers who love numbers more than noise are the quiet heroes of long campaigns. At night, the camp shines like a small city fallen from the sky, chessboard of firelight, regular and reassuring, a geometry of rest. Rome keeps a calendar you can hear. Festivals thread the year. Saturnalia's laughter, Lupercalia's wild sprint, Parentalia's quiet remembrance. Rituals are public housekeeping, cleaning the city's relationship with its gods. The pontifices guard sacred law. The augurs read auspices, flight and pattern of birds, before major actions. Flamins serve individual deities. The Vestal virgins tend a fire that is more than flame. 'Tis continuity. Domestic cult frames the day. A household lights the lararium, offers salt and grain, names the lares and penates, thanks the powers that keep walls standing and tables set. State religion is practical theology. Duut des. I give, so you give. Vows, vota, accompany wars, bridges, aqueducts. Fulfillment inscribed on marble when promises are kept, and luck returns the favour. Temples are civic architecture, treasuries, meeting places, shade for disputes. Processions lace streets. Music softens corners. Even skeptics enjoy the choreography. Syncretism is the empire's talent. Local gods mapped to Roman names, shrines bilingual, festivals layered rather than erased. Belonging feels familiar, even when new. Foreign cults find homes. Isis sails into port cities. Mithras lights subterranean caves for soldiers. Cybele drums beat in spring. Variety sometimes alarms authorities, then settles into the usual Roman bargain. Behave, register, pay, proceed. By late antiquity, a new faith rises public. Basilicas glow where temples stood. Bishops become civic leaders. The calendar takes on fresh anchors. Easter, Nativity, Saints' Days. The old and the new overlap for a while like double exposure. Altars and apses across the same forum, neighbours walking to different mornings. Ritual is time management for the anxious heart. It says, do this now, do that then, thank here, ask there. Whether gods answer or not, humans sleep better with a plan. On an ordinary evening, a father pours a libation. A child imitates the gesture. A mother places bread on a small plate. The gods may smile. Certainly the family does. At night, the city's shrines cool, but the promises they house stay warm. Philosophy is Rome's bedside lamp. Greek schools arrive and set up shop. Stoics, Epicureans, skeptics, peripatetics, each offering a manual for living that fits in a pocket and uncrumples under pressure. Stoicism becomes fashionable and useful. Seneca, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, teaching control of judgments, alignment with nature, duty without drama. It's cognitive discipline long before anyone called it that. Epicureans whisper, the gods are distant, fear less, cultivate friendship, choose simple pleasures, garden your mind. The garden is not hedonism, it is precision about what actually helps. Skeptics practice balance, suspend judgment where proof fails, remain gentle with uncertainty. Peripatetics argue ethics while mapping biology and rhetoric. Broad curiosity in sandals. Philosophy enters law courts and kitchens. A merchant quotes Epictetus to steady a price negotiation. A mother uses stoic reframing to comfort a child who fears thunder. Letters preserve practical exercises, premeditating adversity, evening reviews of conduct. Gratitude lists scratched in wax beside shopping lists. Not every philosopher is kind, not every school listens, but the good ones meet people where they live. In worry, boredom, grief, hope, they give tools that fit in the hand. The empire shifts and schools adapt. Bishops quote philosophers. Philosophers visit bishops. Doctrines collide and combine, finding edges they lacked alone. In a time of noise, the quietest sentences last longest. What you control is small, but it is yours. Tend it. At day's end, a shopkeeper closes the till and notes a lapse in patience, a success in honesty. A soldier writes one line, I did what I could. A teacher adds, I spoke clearly. Philosophy, like Rome's roads, connects distant places inside you. Travel well, and sleep knowing the map is under your pillow. If roads are Rome's veins, sea lanes are its lungs. Harbours wake before the city. Chains clink across mouths. Pilots check winds. The Pharaohs blinks confidence into dawn. Ships are clever timber, mortise and tenon planks, later nails, broad-bellied honoraria for grain, sleeker hulls for passengers and parcels. Sails know Mediterranean moods, summer Etesian winds north-south, winter storms that teach patience. Navigation is coasting and courage. Captains hug shorelines, count headlands, memorize stars. Ports are spaced like punctuation. Shipmasters wait out weather with ledgers and dice. The Annona grain fleet is empire-scale breath. Egypt's harvest, rising the Tiber on barges to Rome's storehouses. Grain doles stabilize politics. A missed convoy is a cranky city. Harbour bureaucracies are choreography. Customs dues, inspections, seals broken and renewed. Weights tested. Fraud exists. So do honest clerks, proud of straight scales. Shipwreck is risk and story. Contracts spread loss. Shrines of survivors decorate capes. Merchants tell cautionary tales that end, reassuringly, in solvency. Messages ride faster by sea than by road, in fair weather. Diplomatic packets, love letters, shopping lists, Rome's inbox crossing between continents. Ports are cosmopolitan schools, languages braided, recipes exchanged, are gods introduced politely before being adopted. The empire learns itself on the water. At day's end, harbour water mirrors lamps in broken lines. A sailor mends a net, a child tosses pebbles. A clerk closes a heavy ledger with a soft, proud thud. Shipbuilding yards smell of pine resin and ambition. Teams lay keels, steam planks, sing timing into hammerwork. Launch day is civic theatre. Garlands, shouted blessings. A hull kissing water like a promise. Insurance by partnership and loan spreads risk. Guilds of shippers lobby for better piers. Emperors answer with concrete that hardens underwater. Engineering dressed as generosity. When storms move in, the harbour becomes a cradle. Lines multiply, prayers thicken, and everyone checks the lighthouse as if it could see them back. Night brings quiet arithmetic, distance, cargo, wind tomorrow. A captain sleeps with one ear on rigging, the other on dreams of an easy departure. Somewhere inland, a loaf rises because a ship arrived. That is empire, and the sea, amused, keeps its own counsel. Governors arrive with staffs and intentions. The best learn to listen first. Local councils argue themselves into improvements. Roman engineers arrive with chalk and a level. A temple here, a theatre there. Baths almost everywhere. The civic kit unfolds like a travelling show that teaches people how to be comfortable together. And under it all, the law, tablets and seals, deeds and wills, rules that fit different accents without losing their shape. At night, thresholds glow like small stages. Courtyards gather family weather. Fountains talk quietly to insomniacs. Stone, having worked all day, cools with excellent manners. You could navigate Rome by scent. Wet travertine after a fountain splash. Fig trees in a peristyle. Bread up one alley, leather down another. Walls collect this into comfort. And when it rains, roofs keep the promise they were built to keep. That too is architecture. In courtyards and rooms full of ordinary light, a new faith gathers, quietly at first, then with a confidence that begins in mercy and grows into community. Calendars will change, so will hearts. Wherever people gather to speak softly about meaning, Rome leans in. It loves order and it loves hope, and both are present here. Morning mist lifts from furrows like breath, and the empire's real clock starts ticking. Plough, sow, weed, harvest. Most Romans are tied to the land. Cities glow at night because fields behaved by day. Smallholders work narrow strips with family and neighbours. Larger villae coordinate tenant plots, enslaved labour, hired hands and seasonal gangs. Manuals, Cato, Varro, Columella, read like patient sermons on timing, soil and thrift. Tools are honest. Wooden scratch ploughs with iron tips, sickles, hoes, mattocks. Where water is kind, yields sing. Where stones abound, patience is the crop. Wheat and barley anchor the diet. Vines and olives anchor the cash. Tria genera, grain, oil, wine, are the three voices of the farm choir. Pulses, greens, and orchards harmonize. Villas are part factory, part household. Presses for oil and wine. Granaries on raised floors for airflow. Barns, slave quarters, kitchens that smell of must and figs. A steward, Villicus, tallies yields on wax. Irrigation is modest but clever. Hillside channels, floodplain ditches, cisterns beneath courtyards. Where rivers dictate, farmers learn to bow and bargain with flood. Harvest is a choreography of hands. Reapers cut, binders tie. Gleaners follow softly, carts creak, songs mark rhythm, storms rewrite plans without apology. Wine season is festival and labour. Grapes arrive sticky with hope, treading vats fill. Fermentation hisses in cool rooms. Oil season answers with olive heaps, stone mills, slow green rivers of light. Rents and taxes take their share, some in grain, some in coin. A good year feeds more than mouths. It feeds courage for the lean ones that always arrive. Estates vary by region. A latifundia sprawl in rich provinces. Hill farms cling like terracotta swallows in others. Tenant contracts define obligations, some harsh, some surprisingly humane. Animals widen the portfolio, sheep for wool, pigs for meat and acorns, cattle for draft, bees for sweetness and medicine. Even manure is strategy. At dusk, the fields lay down their tools. Crickets start inventory. Stars handle oversight. The moon signs off on irrigation. Tomorrow is already sharpening its sickle. The Nile is a metronome. Rise, sow, reap, rest. Its floods measured at nilometers and turned into taxes and prayers. When Rome annexes Egypt, 30 BCE, it acquires a calendar that feeds the capital. Administration is delicate, a prefect appointed by the emperor, Greek-speaking bureaucracy in place, temples and priesthoods respected but audited. Grain quotas move from fields to riverboats to Alexandria, then by sea to Rome. Villages, comae, revolve around irrigation and storage. Scribes keep papyrus humming, cadasters, receipts, petitions. Everyday Greek and Demotic Egyptian lives side by side. Latin is the language of command, not market. Alexandria is a hinge city, lighthouse, museum memory, cosmopolitan docks. Its grain fleet is empire-scale breath. A mist convoy tightens Rome's temper faster than any speech. Religion is layered, ancient gods with Roman titles, Serapis mediating worlds. Jewish communities long established, early Christians arguing and organizing by candlelight. The city hosts debates that will echo for centuries. Industry thrives. Papyrus, glass, fine linens. Scholarship lingers in private libraries. Sailors trade weather proverbs in multiple tongues. Egypt is both old and astonishingly current. Taxation here is meticulous, sometimes suffocating. Assessments tie to flood levels. Arrears shadow households like a second roof. Petitions to officials show negotiation as a civic art. The desert frames everything. Monastic seeds sprout in silence. Quarries feed obelisks and marble dreams. Caravan routes deliver aromatics that make distant baths smell like myth. When the Nile misbehaves, granaries thin and policy learns humility. When it behaves, Rome eats bread that tastes faintly of the sun on water. Night in the Delta is soft as silt. Frogs keep time, reeds write poems on the wind, and the empire, depending on this quiet, sleeps a little easier. A farmer folds a papyrus receipt into a jar. A clerk sharpens a reed pen. An overseer whispers to the river for tomorrow's measure. Egypt is logistics with a heartbeat, and the lighthouse, a patient star, blinks safe into the dark. Gaul arrives in Roman memory, with trumpets, and ends with invoices. Conquered in stages, reorganized into provinces, it becomes a laboratory for roads, towns, and hybrid culture. Colonial grids plant Cardo and Decumanus through Celtic landscapes. Hill forts become civitas capitals. Baths and forums bloom like practical flowers. Local elites join councils, send sons to rhetoric, write Latin with regional colour. Economy tilts toward wine and pottery. Terra sigillata from southern Gaul sets table fashion across the west. Vineyards creep up slopes. Cooperages drum like rain. Religion layers rather than erases. Celtic gods pair with Roman names. Sanctuaries get porticos. Processions learn new routes. Latin grows a Gaulish accent and then teaches it to distant governors. Military presence is steady but neighbourly. Forts anchor trade. Veterans settle on land. Legionary supply chains create civilian economies along their shadow. Urban-rural exchange tightens. Town markets schedule the countryside. Countryside feeds town ambition. Crafts travel, metalwork, glass, leather, each learning a slightly different tune. Resistance exists, but habit wins. Roads shorten distance, law offers predictability, Latin offers status, baths offer warm rooms in a cold climate. People choose comfort, wrapped in new names. By late antiquity, bishops sit where curial elites once did, and cities learn to pivot. The Roman kit adapts. Cathedrals share streets with baths. Markets forget to notice the century. And children, now speaking a Latin that is turning quietly into French, count the same numbers on their fingers. But at night, fog braids itself along riverbanks. A tavern hums. A road sign gleams with dew. The empire here feels durable, like oak. A cooper ties the last hoop. A vintner checks the sky. A scribe warms his hands over a brazier while letters learn the local weather. Tomorrow the carts will roll, wine south, salt north, news everywhere. Across the sea from Sicily, Africa Proconsularis glows with grain fields and cities trimmed in limestone. Carthage, rebuilt Roman and proud, becomes a capital of order and appetite. Agriculture is a marvel here. Estates with efficient presses, irrigation experiments, olive orchards like disciplined armies. Africa's grain joins Egypt's to fatten Rome's ledgers and bellies. Cities, Carthage, Utica, Leptis Magna, where theatres, baths and forums with an African swagger. Mosaics sparkle with local fauna. Colonnades throw shade like generosity. Trade routes stitch coasts to desert. Garamante's caravans bring dates, salt, and gold whispers. Ports host merchants with skin like a map of winds. Local elites fund public works. Inscriptions shout donor names. Civic pride is a currency as real as coin. Septimius Severus from Leptis becomes emperor. Proof the provinces do more than supply. They lead. Christian communities bloom early here. Debates burn bright. Bishops write letters that travel farther than ships. The region is bookish and busy. Sand and stone negotiate constantly. Earthquakes and encroaching dunes test maintenance. Cities respond with repairs, diversions, sometimes stubborn denial. Not every fight with the desert can be won. Yet for centuries, fountains play, bread arrives, theatres sell out, and children splash under lion-head spouts. Rome's promise, comfort by design, works here with panache. When changes come, they come like tide, slow, then all at once. Memory keeps receipts longer than marble does. By night, the sea is a breathing neighbour. Ships count stars. Jackals test the edge of town. A baker sets dough. A bishop drafts a sermon. A mason sharpens chisels for a temple-turned church. Africa feeds, argues, builds, adjusts. The empire gratefully eats and listens. And the dawn smells like warm grain and wet stone. Taxation includes tithes, temple dues, imperial levies. Collectors are lightning rods for resentment. Zeal and collaboration both exist. Most people, as everywhere, try to live between extremes. Languages braid, Aramaic in homes, Hebrew in scripture, Greek in trade, Latin in command tents. Messages pass through four throats and still arrive understood enough to matter. Revolt is risk and reality. Rome answers with legions, siege engines, and administrative rewrites when dust falls. Diasporas shift maps without moving stones. Synagogues function as schools and courts. Law is community in action. Early Christian groups appear in houses, then roads. Letters travel to and from this landscape with surprising speed. Herodian building projects, ports, fortresses, palaces, a politics carved in limestone. Waterworks are diplomacy with gravity. Even contention needs good stairs. After the Great Wars, provinces are renamed, populations resorted, and memory windowed by new architecture. Yet prayers keep original addresses. Night in Judea holds many lamps. A scribe copies a psalm. A centurion writes home. A pilgrim counts coins by touch. The empire is present, but not ultimate. Law is both shield and friction. Morning will resume arguments with better light. Markets will open. Courts will sit. Children will recite. Between empire and covenant, daily life finds its narrow, steady path. And the hills collect the day's last copper and keep it safe. Britain feels like the end of a sentence, the kind that trails into mist. The air smells of wet stone and heather. Roads shine like slate when the clouds approve. Conquest comes in pulses. First landings, then governors with maps. Then veterans planting straight streets in damp towns. Local kings calculate. Some become Roman friends, some Roman homework. Frontiers are less borders than conversations. Fort chains stitch river valleys. Patrols learn hill silhouettes by heart. Trade grows from caution to custom. Hadrian's Wall is not a stop so much as a sort. Gates, mile castles, watchtowers, customs in miniature. People pass with goods and stories. Soldiers pass with orders and weather complaints. Forts become towns. Veek streets outside the gates host smiths, taverns, bathhouses. Families settle. Altars rise to river gods with new Latin names. A northern drizzle learns to respect hot water. Latin arrives, keeps troublemakers, teaches law. Native languages persist in kitchens and poems. Hybridity is the empire's quiet superpower. Agriculture adapts. Villa farms in the southeast with mosaics whispering of Mediterranean tastes. Rougher estates in the north, making do with wool and grit. Tin and lead mines dig into hills like careful arguments. Religions mingle politely. Jupiter next to local water spirits. Mithras in underground rooms where soldiers learn comradeship by lamp. Later, small churches collecting light through thin windows. By late antiquity, imperial attention thins, local leadership thickens. The kit remains, roads, walls, habits, and people use it to make their own weather. At night, a garrison counts the heartbeats of rain on leather. A farmer counts sheep. A clerk counts receipts for grain. Empire on the edge is still empire. Schedules, seals, soups. Morning comes with geese on the river and carts in the ruts. The wall does its job, organizing distance into something the day can understand. And the sea, never far, reminds everyone that maps end in music. Image prompt. Clifftop view of a Roman signal tower over grey sea. Beacon brazier, cold in dawn, gulls wheeling, 16 by 9. Law in Rome isn't just books, it's benches and breath. Cases begin with petitions, wax tablets folded, cords tied, seals pressed with a ring that smells faintly of oil. A land dispute, boundary stones missing after a storm. Witnesses recall the old oak. The surveyor arrives with cord and plumb. The magistrate listens and frowns like a carpenter measuring twice. A contract quarrel, delivery short by 2 amphorae of oil. Weights and titulae picti, amphora inscriptions, are checked. A clerk calculates leakage allowance. Fairness is arithmetic, sung softly. Inheritance tangles. A will gives freedom to 2 household members and a shop to a niece. Uncle's brother contests, citing guardianship flaws. Jurists cite Praetorian edicts. Compromise braids law with mercy. Family law in motion. A dowry's return after divorce. Ledgers surface. Furniture lists read like poems of chairs and cups. The house divides without breaking. Criminal matters differ. Public order, theft, violence. Punishments range from fines and exile to heavy penalties. Trials try to keep temperature low, but Rome is human and sometimes heats up. The genius of Roman law is the formula, a structured question posed to a judge. If it appears that evidence answers calmly, verdicts follow the grammar. Appeals exist, petitions climb ladders to governors, prefects, sometimes emperors. A good emperor answers like a schoolmaster, clear, brief, quotable. Case law and opinions accumulate. Responsa of jurists, edicts of praetors, rescripts of emperors, layering precedent until the law feels like a road. In provincial towns, the same dance plays in smaller rooms with rougher benches. Translation adds flourishes. Justice tries on local shoes and walks fairly far. People don't love the law. They rely on it, like a bridge they don't admire until rain. Most days, it holds. On the bad ones, it still teaches where weight should go. At closing time, scribes sand signatures dry. The forum exhales, and Rome ties one more day with a legal knot that will be checked tomorrow. Roads begin with intention and end with trust. The empire maintains via with local labour, military crews and contracts. Repairs obsess over drainage, because water is a cunning adversary. Milestones aren't decoration, they're data. Distance to cities, names of builders, even notes of repair. Travellers read them like gossip columns for stone. Way stations, the mutationes and mansiones, punctuate journeys. Fresh horses, meals, beds of varying optimism. Official couriers flash credentials. Private travellers bargain with coin and stories. The cursus publicus is the nervous system. Relay riders carry dispatches. Sea and land legs harmonise. Seals protect packets from curiosity and rain. Maps exist. Itineraria, listing routes and distances. The Tabula Peutingeriana's later medieval copy preserves a Roman way of drawing the world as lines between cities, like veins between organs. Traffic law is common sense. Yield to wagons on narrow bridges. Respect city bans on daytime carts. Pay tolls where posted. Exceptions breed bribery, and bribery breeds extra paperwork. Road policing is local. Watch posts, patrols, neighbourly eyes. Robbers exist, but so do friends of friends. Hospitality travels faster than theft. In bad weather, the post pauses. An intelligent empire knows when not to hurry. Deadlines melt into prudence, and dispatches arrive late but intact. Arrivals are small ceremonies, dust shaken, horses watered, greetings made. A message delivered is a tiny victory over distance. At night, the road narrows to the width of a thought. Stars act as milestones for the sky. A traveller counts them to stay brave. Morning widens the world again. The stone holds its line. The day begins obediently at the mile marker nearest you. Somewhere, because of these lines, a mother hears from a son, proof that engineering can comfort. Water is lazy and obedient. Give it a slope of a finger's breadth per 100 paces, and it will cross valleys like a patient king. Roman engineers make gravity the empire's quiet worker. Survey is the art. Corrugates, leveled beams. Dioptra, sighting instrument. Chords dampened to avoid lies. Errors mean dry fountains and angry letters. Therefore, accuracy becomes religion. Channels vary, covered masonry conduits, lead pipes in cities, arcades where valleys insist. Spacus lining is waterproof mortar. Maintenance walkways allow hands to meet problems before neighbours do. Where hills intrude, inverted siphons in lead or stone pipes press water down and back up. Pressure tamed with thickness and joints. Where rivers cross, arcades step confidently, arches teaching weight to behave. Distribution is civic choreography. Water towers, castella. Split flows to neighbourhoods, baths, fountains. Calibrated orifices enforce fairness. Inspectors with rods and attitudes chase illegal taps. Cities sing in tears. Aqueduct arrow, castellum, arrow lead mains, arrow secondary pipes, arrow fountain / bath / house. Each joint is a promise and an argument. Failures tell stories. Lime accretions narrow channels. Earthquakes shrug arcades. Politics cuts maintenance budgets until thirst writes petitions. Repairs leave inscriptions as apologies to the future. Materials matter. Pozzolanic mortar that sets underwater. Ashlar dressed to a hair. Lead shaped by men who did not know everything it would do to them. Genius often learns late. Engineers keep notebooks full of gradients and curses. Their pride is modest. The fountain runs. Because glory is for statues and aqueducts prefer function. When moonlight lays a silver stripe along the channel, the whole system feels like a sentence in a language you almost speak. You understand enough to drink. Morning finds fountains alive. Women talking as they fill jars, children splashing lightly, a dog choosing shade in the overspill. Water, once asked correctly, answers faithfully. A city is a machine that makes comfort. Rome learns to hide the gears, put noise in markets, shade in walkways, water where feet expect it, officials where problems begin. Grid where possible, compromise where necessary. New towns wear chessboards. Old Rome keeps its tangle and adds sense. Widen a street here, clear a forum there. Cut arcades for rainy days. Zoning by habit. Trades cluster. Tanners downstream. Fishmongers near morning shade. Bookstalls where students loiter. Smell is policy even when no one writes it. Services keep the peace. Grain dole lines organised by tokens. Vigiles for fire watch. Night soil and street sweeping contracts. Water distribution rosters. public notices posted where eyes already gather. Markets are curated chaos, stall assignments, measure standards, inspector circuits. Fairness at the scale and calm at the queue keep tempers under the boiling point. Traffic management matters. Carts restricted in daylight on narrow streets. Porters licensed. Turning posts at tight corners. Milestones inside the city turn distance into decisions. Safety is eyes and routine. Patrols, lamps, neighbours. Curfew is soft but real in tense times. Festivals loosen it, adding lights and music as substitute insurance. Public time is posted, calendars chalked, games announced. Baths hours hung like hospitality. Even fun has a schedule, and schedules a kindness. Waste goes out of sight by design. Sewers under, middens managed, dung carts early. Civic pride is the smell you don't smell. When cities grow tired, they sag first in services. Lamps unlit, fountains failing, notices late. Repair those, and morale returns before marble does. At dusk, a lamplighter makes a thin gold path. A waterman taps a pipe and nods. A street sweeper leans on his broom like a general after victory. Comfort is the empire's best argument. People believe in what lets them sleep. Rome never fully sleeps. Lanterns burn in doorways, taverns still hum, carts rattle on exceptions. To keep order, the vigiles walk their beats, part police, part fire brigade, part neighbourly presence. Their kit is simple: buckets, hooks, axes, pumps. They carry horns to raise alarm, and dogs often pad at their side. In groups of 7 cohorts, they cover districts like blankets carefully spread. Arson and accident are twin enemies. Insular kitchens, crowded workshops, lamp oil. Fire is always waiting. A quick bucket line, a smashed wall to halt spread, a pump dragging river water. This is how catastrophe shrinks into mere story. Patrols handle small theft, drunken brawls, suspicious gatherings. They are not legionaries, but they wear discipline, organised, commanded, responsible to prefects. Authority is visible in steady steps. Fires that escape control become civic trauma. After the Great Fire of 64 CE, codes tighten. Rebuilding reshapes streets. Watchmen become more respected. Tragedy reforms more effectively than law. At dawn, the vigiles report to scribes, tallying incidents like weather. 2 lamps overturned, 1 brawl, 1 stray mule corralled. The city counts its scars and shrugs. We keep its roads when we decide to arrive. Its law when we decide to be fair. Its city planning when we decide to be kind to crowds we'll never meet. We keep its language in the bones of our words, its calendar in the bones of our days, its courage in the bones of our better choices. Sleep now, with straight lines under you and steady water beside you, the empire of rest within reach. We keep its language in the bones of our words, its calendar in the bones of our days, its courage in the bones of our better choices. Sleep now, with straight lines under you and steady water beside you, the empire of rest within reach. Rome teaches that infrastructure is a kind of love, that law can shelter as surely as walls, that planning is a mercy offered to strangers you will never meet. Art. We inherit its habits more than its heroes, measure fairly, write clearly, build for weather and time. The rest is marble, and marble is only stone that learned to shine. Let the arches dim, the water reduce to a silver line, the road fade into the dark, brick by brick, breath by breath. Good night.